Katie Morrison shifted her duffel bag on her shoulder and looked around the registration hall. It was bigger than any building she had ever seen on Earth. The ceiling stretched so high above her that she could barely see it through the floating lights and holographic displays. Everywhere she looked, there were aliens. Not the little green men from old movies, but real aliens. Strange and wonderful and terrifying all at once. A creature that looked like it was made of living crystal floated past her. Its body caught the light and threw rainbows across the floor. Behind it, something that resembled a walking tree trunk stomped by on thick roots. Katie tried not to stare, but it was hard. She had trained for this moment for 2 years, ever since Earth made its first contact with the wider galaxy. But nothing could really prepare someone for this. The line moved forward slowly. Each cadet stepped up to a scanning station, where an instructor would check their credentials and species information. Katie watched as a huge alien with 4 arms approached the scanner. The machine hummed and displayed information in a language Katie couldn't read. The instructor, a reptilian creature with 3 eyes, nodded and waved the 4-armed alien through. Katie counted 30 different species in the line ahead of her. Some were tall, some short. Some had fur, others had scales or skin that looked like metal. A few didn't even seem solid, their bodies shifting and changing like colored smoke. She wondered what they thought when they looked at her. Just another strange creature in a universe full of strange creatures. The academy was called Celestial Academy Station, and it orbited in neutral space between 3 major galactic powers. Only the best warriors from approved species could attend. Katie had scored in the top percentile on every test Earth's military had given her. She was fast, strong for a human, and smart. More importantly, she never quit. That was what the recruitment officer had told her. "You don't know when to give up, Morrison. That makes you perfect for this." Finally, it was her turn. Katie stepped up to the scanning station and set her duffel bag down. The instructor looked at her with all 3 eyes. His scales were a deep green color, and when he spoke, his voice came out in a hiss that the translation device in her ear converted to English. "Step forward into the scanner," he said. Katie did as instructed. She stood still while blue light washed over her body from head to toe. The scan took longer than it had for the other cadets. The instructor frowned, his 3rd eye blinking independently from the other 2. He tapped at his console with clawed fingers. The scanner beeped. The sound was sharp and wrong, not like the pleasant tone it had made for everyone else. The screen flashed red. Katie saw the words even though they were in an alien language. Her translation device read them out loud in her ear. Undefined species. No database match. The instructor's frown deepened. He checked his screen again, then looked at Katie with what she thought might be confusion. Other instructors started to notice. One of them, a being that seemed to be made of flowing water held together by some kind of force field, drifted over to look at the screen. "That's impossible," the reptilian instructor muttered. He spoke to himself, but the translation device still picked it up. "The database contains every spacefaring species in known space. Every single one. Is there a problem?" Katie asked. She kept her voice calm and steady, the way she had been trained. The instructor looked at her again. This time, all 3 eyes focused on her with an intensity that made her want to step back. She didn't. She held her ground and met his gaze. "What species are you?" he asked. "Human," Katie said. "From Earth." The instructor tapped at his console. His claws clicked against the surface in rapid patterns. He waited, then shook his head. "There is no record of any species called human in the database. There is no record of any planet called Earth." "That's strange," Katie said. She reached into her pocket slowly, not wanting to startle anyone. She pulled out a data chip and held it up. "I have my acceptance letter. It was approved by your commandant." The instructor took the chip and inserted it into his console. His eyes widened as he read the information. The water being leaned in closer, and Katie could hear a sound like waves on a beach coming from inside it. More instructors were gathering now. Word was spreading that something unusual was happening. "This seal is legitimate," the reptilian instructor said. His voice had changed. He sounded uncertain now, maybe even worried. "This is Commandant Zarquil's personal authorization, but I have never heard of your species. How did you get this?" "Earth's diplomatic corps sent my application 6 months ago," Katie explained. "I received my acceptance 3 months ago. I traveled here on a human ship." She paused. "Is there really no record of us in your database?" "None," the instructor said. He looked at the other instructors around him. They spoke in rapid exchanges that her translator couldn't keep up with. Finally, he turned back to her. "You will need to wait here while we verify this information. Do not leave this area." Katie nodded. "Can I at least sit down?" The instructor waved at a bench along the wall. Katie picked up her duffel bag and walked over to it. She sat down and watched as more cadets went through the scanning process. They all looked at her with curiosity. Some of the looks seemed friendly. Others seemed suspicious or even hostile. Katie was used to hostile looks. She had grown up in a rough neighborhood and joined the military as soon as she was old enough. Hostile looks didn't scare her. An hour passed. Then two. Katie waited patiently. She had learned patience in the military. You spend a lot of time waiting in the military, waiting for orders, waiting for transport, waiting for the enemy to make a move. This was just more waiting. Finally, the crowd of instructors parted. A new figure approached the scanning station. This one was different from all the others. It stood about 7 feet tall with skin that glowed with soft bioluminescence. Colors rippled across its surface like the aurora borealis. It had no visible eyes, but Katie felt like it was looking directly at her. She stood up. The glowing being stopped at the console and looked at the screen. The reptilian instructor spoke to it in low tones. Katie couldn't hear what they were saying, but she saw the glowing being's colors shift from blue to purple, to something that looked like deep red. It stood there for a long moment, not moving, just looking at the screen. Then it turned to face Katie. When it spoke, its voice was like music and thunder combined. The translation device struggled to keep up. "You are human," it said. Not a question. A statement. "Yes, sir," Katie replied. "From Earth." "Yes, sir." The being's colors flickered through several shades Katie couldn't identify. "I am Commandant Zarquil. I run this academy." It paused, and Katie felt the weight of its attention on her. "I know what you are." The other instructors looked surprised. The reptilian one started to speak, but Zarquil raised one glowing hand. Silence fell over the registration hall. Even the cadets who were still in line stopped talking. "Sir?" Katie said carefully. Zarquil's colors settled into a deep blue. "Your species should not be here. Your planet was marked as forbidden territory over 3 million years ago. The quarantine was meant to be permanent." Katie felt her heart beat faster, but she kept her expression neutral. "I don't know anything about that, sir. I only know that Earth applied for membership in the Galactic Coalition 2 years ago. We were accepted. I received orders to attend this academy." "Orders from whom?" Zarquil asked. "From Earth Space Command. From our government. They chose me and 11 others to represent humanity." Zarquil was quiet for a long moment. His colors shifted again, moving through patterns Katie couldn't read. Finally, he turned to the reptilian instructor. "Let her through. Assign her to Squad 7. The instructor looked shocked. "Sir, we don't even know what species she is." "The safety protocols." "I know exactly what species she is," Zarquil interrupted. His voice had gotten harder, like stone scraping against stone. "That is why I want to see what she can do." He looked at Katie again. "You will be tested, human. You will be pushed to your limits and beyond. If you fail, you will be sent home and your species will remain in quarantine. Do you understand?" Katie met his gaze without flinching. Or at least she met where she thought his gaze was. "I understand, sir. I didn't come here to fail." Something that might have been a smile rippled across Zarquil's surface. "No, I don't suppose you did." He turned to the instructors. "Update the database. Species, human. Origin, Earth. Classification, pending evaluation. Now let her through. We have a schedule to keep." The reptilian instructor still looked uncertain, but he nodded. He processed Katie's credentials and handed her a datapad. "This contains your schedule, your barracks assignment, and your equipment list. Report to Squad 7's barracks by 1800 hours. Tomorrow morning, training begins at 0500. "Thank you, sir," Katie said. She took the datapad and her duffel bag. As she walked away from the scanning station, she could feel every eye in the hall watching her. The undefined species. The one that wasn't supposed to exist. The one from a forbidden planet. Katie kept her head up and her shoulders back. She had made it through the door. Now she just had to prove she belonged here. Behind her, she heard the reptilian instructor talking to another instructor in a low voice. "Undefined species," he murmured. "Then who authorized?" Katie found Squad 7's barracks just before 1800 hours. The door slid open automatically when she approached. revealing a large room with 6 sleeping pods arranged in a circle. 4 of them were already occupied. 4 aliens sat on their pods, and all of them turned to look at her when she entered. "You must be the new one," said the largest alien in the room. He stood at least 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and skin that looked like red stone. His voice was deep and rumbling. "I am Raxtor, squad leader." "Katie Morrison," she said. She set her duffel bag down on the empty pod. "Human. Never heard of your species," said another alien. This one was smaller, covered in sleek fur that shifted between black and silver. It had large eyes and ears that twitched as it spoke. The voice was feminine, smooth like silk. "I am Liss. I come from the Felinar system." "Chenock," said a third alien. This one looked like a giant insect, with multiple legs and antennae that waved in the air. Its voice clicked and buzzed, but the translator made it understandable. "Hive worlds. You are very small." "Pelra," said the fourth alien. This one was partially submerged in a tank of water that somehow stayed contained within an invisible force field. She looked almost human, except for the gills on her neck and the webbing between her fingers. "Oceanic worlds. Welcome to Squad 7. Katie nodded at each of them. "Thanks. Good to meet you all." Raxtor crossed his forearms. "The database says you are undefined. What does that mean?" "It means we're new," Katie said. She started unpacking her duffel bag. "Earth only made contact with the Galactic Coalition 2 years ago. I guess we're not in the system yet." "New species are screened for years before being allowed into the Academy," Liss said. Her tail swished behind her. "How did you get approved so quickly?" Katie shrugged. "I don't know the politics, I just go where I'm ordered." "Military background?" Pelra asked. "Yes. 5 years in Earth's armed forces before this." Chenock's antennae waved faster. "What class is your world?" "Mine is Class 4. Very comfortable." "Class 9, Katie said casually. The room went silent. All 4 aliens stared at her. Raxtor unfolded his arms slowly. "Class 9, he repeated. "That is a Death World classification." "Is it?" Katie said. She had heard the term before, but she didn't know what it meant in galactic terms. "What makes a Death World?" "High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators, limited resources," Liss said. She was looking at Katie with new interest. "Most species evolve on Class 3 to 5 worlds. Anything above Class 6 is considered barely habitable. Earth seems pretty habitable to us," Katie said. "About 11 billion humans live there." 11 billion, Pelra said softly. "On a Class 9 world." Katie finished unpacking and sat on her pod. "So is that going to be a problem?" Raxtor studied her for a long moment. "We will see," he finally said. "Tomorrow begins physical assessment. That will tell us what you can do." That night, Katie lay in her pod and stared at the ceiling. She could hear the others breathing in their sleep. Liss purred softly. Chenock made clicking sounds. Pelra's water tank bubbled gently. Raxtor was silent, but she could hear his massive weight shifting occasionally. She thought about home, about Earth, about the blue sky and green forests and the ocean she had grown up near, about her family, who were probably watching the news right now, hoping to hear something about how humanity's first Academy cadets were doing. Katie closed her eyes and promised herself she wouldn't let them down. The next morning came early. At 500 hours, an alarm blared through the barracks. Katie was up and dressed in her training uniform within 2 minutes. The others took longer. By the time they were all ready, it was 05:15. "You're late," barked an instructor waiting outside their door. This one looked like a bear crossed with a tank, covered in thick armor plating. 20 penalty laps around the training ring. Move." They ran the laps. Katie kept pace with the others easily. Raxtor led the group, his long legs eating up distance. Liss ran with grace, barely seeming to touch the ground. Chenock scuttled on multiple legs. Pelra wore a special suit that kept her skin moist. Katie just ran, her breathing steady, her form efficient. After the laps, they were herded into a large training hall. Dozens of other squads were already there. The instructor stood on a raised platform at the front of the room. Katie recognized the reptilian instructor from yesterday. His name was Vekthar, according to her datapad. "Today is physical assessment day," Vekthar announced. His voice carried across the hall. "Each of you will face combat drones calibrated to moderate difficulty. The test measures your combat ability, reflexes, and tactical thinking. You have 5 minutes to disable or destroy all drones. Failure means remedial training." The squads were called up one at a time. Katie watched as aliens of every shape and size fought against floating drones that shot stun bolts and energy nets. Some cadets passed easily, others struggled. A few failed completely and were escorted out of the hall. "Squad 7, you're up," called an instructor. They walked onto the training floor. 6 drones floated into position, one for each squad member. Katie studied her drone. It was about 3 feet across, spherical, with multiple weapon ports visible on its surface. "Begin," Vekthar said. The drones activated immediately. Katie's drone fired a stun bolt at her. She dodged to the side and rolled, coming up in a crouch. The drone tracked her movement and fired again. Katie was already moving. She ran straight at the drone, faster than it seemed to expect. The drone fired twice more. Katie dodged the first bolt and took the second shot on her shoulder. Pain jolted through her arm, but she ignored it. She had trained through worse. As she reached the drone, she jumped and grabbed it with both hands. The drone tried to shake her off, spinning rapidly. Katie held on, her grip like iron. She found the seam where the drone's armor plates met and drove her fingers into it. The drone sparked and fell. Katie landed on her feet and looked around. The others were still fighting their drones. She had finished in under a minute. Vekthar was staring at her. So were half the instructors. Katie stood at attention and waited. One by one, the others finished. Raxtor crushed his drone with his 4 arms. Liz used her speed and claws to tear hers apart. Chenok injected venom that fried the electronics. Pelra used some kind of sonic attack that shattered her drone's casing. "Time," Vekthar called out. "Squad 7, pass Morrison, step forward." Katie walked to the front. She kept her expression neutral, but inside she was wondering if she had done something wrong. "Your drone was set to moderate difficulty," Vekthar said. "You destroyed it in 53 seconds. That is faster than any cadet has ever achieved on their first day." He tapped his console. "We're going to test you again. This time, extreme difficulty. 3 drones." Katie nodded. "Yes, sir." 3 new drones floated into position. These were bigger, faster, and had more weapons. When the test started, they attacked in coordination, forcing Katie to defend from multiple angles at once. She adapted instantly. Katie didn't try to attack all 3 at once. She focused on creating chaos, making them get in each other's way. She used the environment, ducking behind obstacles and forcing the drones to waste shots. When she saw an opening, she took it. She grabbed a piece of debris from the first test and threw it at one drone, making it dodge into another drone. While they were tangled, she jumped and pulled them both to the ground. The third drone fired at her back. The stun bolt hit her between the shoulder blades. Katie grunted but didn't fall. She turned and charged the drone head-on. It fired again. She twisted and took the shot on her hip instead of her chest. 3 steps more and she had it. She ripped the weapon ports off the drone and crushed them in her hands. The whole test took 2 minutes and 40 seconds. When it was over, Katie was breathing hard and had scorch marks on her uniform. But she was standing and all 3 drones were destroyed. The hall was silent. Every cadet was staring at her. Every instructor was staring at her. Even her squad members looked shocked. Vekthar made a note on his console. "Undefined species displays abnormal persistence," he muttered. Then louder, "Morrison medical check, then report to the endurance course." The endurance course was a 3-dimensional maze that shifted gravity at random. Most species quit after 30 minutes. The instructors told Katie she needed to complete at least 1 full circuit to pass. 1 circuit was about 10 miles, accounting for the vertical sections. Katie ran for 3 hours straight. She didn't quit when her legs started to burn. She didn't quit when she got dizzy from the gravity shifts. She didn't quit when other cadets dropped out around her. She just kept running, one foot in front of the other, breathing steady, pace controlled. When she finally finished, she had completed 2 full circuits. She collapsed at the finish line, her muscles screaming. An instructor approached her with a scanner. "Your heart rate is elevated but stable," the instructor said. It sounded surprised. "Your muscle tissue shows minor tearing but nothing critical. How do you feel?" "Tired," Katie said. She managed a smile. "But good." That evening, back in the barracks, her squad members looked at her differently. There was respect in their eyes now, and maybe a little fear. "Where I come from," Raxtor said slowly, "there is an old saying, the most dangerous enemy is the one who will not stop fighting. I think I understand that saying better now." Instructor Draven couldn't sleep. The elderly historian sat in his office long after the station's lights had dimmed to night cycle. His screen glowed with information about Earth, and what he was reading made his skin crawl. Literally. The small sensory tentacles that covered his body were twitching with distress. He had started researching after watching the human's performance in the training hall. Something about her persistence had seemed wrong. Not morally wrong, but wrong in the way that predators were wrong. Beautiful and terrible at the same time. So he had gone digging through the old archives, the ones that most people had forgotten about. Earth was listed as Quarantine Zone 7. The file was millions of years old. Draven read the original survey report and felt his 3 hearts beating faster. Planet shows extreme hostility to life, the ancient report stated. Gravity is 30% higher than standard. Temperature ranges from -50 to +60 degrees. Regular natural disasters include volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, and ice ages. Native life forms are aggressive mega-predators. Recommendation: avoid contact. Expected timeline for dominant species development: never. This world will kill anything intelligent before it can leave the planet. But something intelligent had left the planet. Humans had survived everything Earth threw at them, more than survived. They had thrived. They had built cities, invented tools, created art, and reached for the stars, all while living on a world that should have killed them. Draven looked up more information. He found records of Earth's history that human ships had transmitted when they first made contact. The images made him sick. Humans hunting animals 10 times their size. Humans crossing frozen wastelands. Humans sailing across vast oceans in primitive wooden boats. Humans fighting wars with weapons designed to kill each other efficiently. 10,000 years of recorded warfare. 10,000 years of humans killing humans, learning new ways to fight. Developing tactics and strategies and weapons. They had invented everything from simple spears to nuclear bombs. They had nearly destroyed themselves multiple times and somehow pulled back from the edge each time. Draven wrote a detailed report and marked it urgent. This information needed to reach the Commandant immediately. The galactic community needed to know what humans were, not just another species. Apex predators. Persistence hunters. Survivors from a world that should have been impossible. The next morning, Squad 7 had combat theory class. The instructor was a tactical genius from the Zelnoth species, beings known for their logical minds and strategic thinking. Her name was Instructor Kailene, and she presented the class with a wargame scenario. "You are defending a mining colony," Kailene explained. Holographic displays showed a small settlement surrounded by mountains. Enemy forces outnumber you 5 to 1. They have better weapons and air support. Your mission is to hold the colony for 72 hours until reinforcements arrive. Begin planning. The cadets broke into their squads to discuss strategy. Raxtor immediately suggested fortifying the colony's walls and preparing for a siege. Lys wanted to use their small numbers for quick strikes and fade away before the enemy could respond. Chinook proposed mining the approaches with explosives. Pelra suggested negotiating with the enemy. Katie listened to all of them, then pulled up the topographical map. She studied it for a long minute. "What if we don't defend the colony?" she said. The others looked at her. "That's the mission," Raxtor said. "No, the mission is to keep the enemy from taking the colony for 72 hours, Katie corrected. "We don't have to stay there to do that." She pointed at the map. "Look at these mountains. There's a narrow pass here where the enemy has to come through. If we destroy that pass, they can't reach the colony. Then we spend the next 3 days making sure they can't rebuild it." "That's a delaying tactic," Lys said. The enemy will just go around. Going around adds 2 weeks to their travel time, Katie said. She had already calculated it. By then, reinforcements will be here. The enemy knows this, so they'll try to clear the pass. That's when we hit them. They'll be in a choke point. Their numbers won't matter, and their air support will have trouble in the narrow space. You want to give up the defensive position and attack, Chinook said. The insectoid's antennae waved rapidly. That's not standard doctrine. Standard doctrine says we lose, Katie replied. We're outnumbered and outgunned. Playing defense means we die. The only way we win is to take away their advantages and create our own. Pelra was looking at the map now. It could work, but it's risky. If they get past us, the colony is undefended. They won't get past us, Katie said with confidence. Not if we do it right. They presented their plan to Instructor Kellyanne. She listened without expression, her large eyes fixed on the holographic display as Katie explained the strategy. When Katie finished, Kellyanne was quiet for a long moment. This is guerrilla warfare, Kellyanne finally said. Where did you learn this tactic? Earth's military history, Katie said. Humans have used it for thousands of years. It's brutal. It's risky. And it completely ignores standard coalition military doctrine, Kellyanne said. She paused. It's also brilliant. If executed correctly, you would win. Full marks, Squad 7. Other squads had overheard the conversation. They looked at Katie with a mixture of respect and concern. One cadet, a large warrior from a species Katie didn't recognize, approached her after class. Your tactics are dishonorable, he said. His voice was angry. Real warriors face their enemies directly. Katie looked up at him. He was twice her size, but she didn't back down. Real warriors use the tactics that keep their people alive, she said calmly. Honor doesn't mean much if you're dead. The cadet looked like he wanted to say more, but Raxtor stepped between them. All 4 of his arms were crossed, and he stood at his full height. Katie is right, Raxtor said. I have been a warrior my whole life. I know the difference between honor and stupidity. Using the enemy's weakness against them is not dishonorable. It's smart. The other cadet backed down, but Katie saw the look in his eyes. She had made an enemy. That was fine. She had enemies before. The next test was weapons qualification. The cadets were given standard Galactic Coalition weapons and sent to the firing range. Katie handled the plasma rifle competently. She hit most of her targets and passed the basic requirements. But she didn't excel. The weapon felt wrong in her hands, too light and too smooth. Then they were shown the museum section where old weapons were kept for historical purposes. Katie saw something that made her heart beat faster. It was a kinetic rifle, probably thousands of years old from some long-dead species. It looked crude compared to the plasma weapons, but Katie recognized the design. It was similar to weapons from Earth. Can I try that one? She asked. The instructor in charge of the range looked surprised. That's an antique, a primitive projectile weapon. It hasn't been fired in decades. I'd still like to try it, Katie said. The instructor shrugged and retrieved the weapon. He loaded it with training ammunition and handed it to Katie. The moment she held it, something clicked. The weight was right. The balance was right. She brought it to her shoulder and felt her body remember 1,000 hours of training. She fired. The first shot hit the center of the target. The second shot hit the same hole. The third, fourth, and fifth shots formed a tight grouping that would fit under a coin. Katie emptied the magazine in smooth, controlled bursts. Every shot hit exactly where she aimed. When she lowered the rifle, the entire range was staring at her. The instructor checked the target, then checked it again. He walked back to Katie with a strange expression on his face. You just shot a perfect score with a weapon you've never used before, he said. I've used weapons like it, Katie said. Earth still uses kinetic weapons. They're reliable, cheap to manufacture, and effective. Your species still uses kinetic weapons, the instructor repeated. He sounded disturbed by this. Why? Energy weapons are far superior, are they? Katie asked. She held up the kinetic rifle. This weapon has no energy signature. It doesn't overheat. The ammunition is simple metal and propellant. It will work in extreme cold, extreme heat, underwater, and in most atmospheric conditions. And there's a psychological factor. When you hear a plasma weapon, you hear a whine. When you hear this, you hear thunder. And by the time you hear the shot, the bullet is already past you. The instructor took the rifle back slowly. Your species thinks about warfare differently than most species. We've had a lot of practice, Katie said. That evening, Commandant Zarquil summoned Katie to his office. She went alone, unsure what to expect. The office was large and dimly lit with a viewport showing the stars outside. Zarquil stood before the viewport, his bioluminescent body casting soft light on the walls. "Sit," he said without turning around. Katie sat. She waited in silence while Zarquil looked at the stars. "I read Instructor Draven's report," Zarquil finally said. "About your planet. About your species." He turned to face her, and his colors were a deep, troubled purple. "Earth is a death world." "Class 9. Do you know what that means?" "I'm learning," Katie said. "It means that by all statistical models, your species should never have developed intelligence," Zarquil said. "The survival pressures on your..." The annual combat demonstration was the biggest event at Celestial Academy Station. Representatives from all 3 major galactic powers attended to watch the Academy's best cadets compete. This year was especially important because tensions between the powers were high. Everyone wanted to show off their species' warriors. Squad 7 had been training for 3 months since Katie arrived. In that time, they had become the top squad in their class. Katie had earned the respect of her squad mates, though she still made other cadets uncomfortable. They had started calling her the Death Worlder behind her back. Katie didn't mind. She had been called worse. The night before the demonstration, Squad 7 gathered in their barracks. They were nervous. Tomorrow they would face the Academy's champion team, Squad 1. Squad 1 had won the demonstration for the last 3 years. They were older, more experienced, and had never lost a match. "They will target you," Raxtor said to Katie. He was cleaning his armor with all 4 arms. "You're the unknown factor. They'll try to take you out first." "Let them try," Katie said. She was doing push-ups her 100th set of the day. Her body was stronger now than when she had arrived. The Academy's training had pushed her hard, and she had responded by pushing herself harder. "I'm ready." Liz was grooming her fur, but her ears were twitched toward Katie. "I still can't read your mind clearly," she said. Liz was psychic, able to sense the thoughts of other beings. "It's like looking into a storm. Chaos and calculation at the same time." "That's pretty accurate," Katie said. She finished her push-ups and stood up. "Human brains are messy. We think about a dozen things at once. It's unsettling," Liz admitted, "but also impressive. I think that's why you're so good at adapting. Your mind considers every possibility simultaneously." Chinook was sharpening his claws on a special stone. "We have trained well together. I believe we can win tomorrow." "We will win," Pelra said from her water tank. She was the tactical genius of the group, always thinking 3 steps ahead. "I have analyzed Squad 1's previous matches. They rely on overwhelming force and superior coordination, but they're predictable. They follow standard tactics. And we don't," Katie said with a smile. "We fight like humans." "We fight like Deathworlders," Raxtor corrected. "You have taught us to be unpredictable, to take calculated risks, to never give up even when we should. These are human traits, but we have learned them." Katie felt warmth in her chest. These aliens, these beings from worlds nothing like Earth, had become her friends. More than friends. Squad 7 was her family now. "We're going to make them remember tomorrow," she said. "We're going to show everyone what we can do." The next morning, the demonstration arena was filled with spectators. Thousands of aliens from hundreds of species packed the viewing platforms. Katie could see the representatives from the 3 galactic powers sitting in special boxes, surrounded by guards and advisors. She wondered what they would think of humanity after today. Squad 7 entered the arena to polite applause. Squad 1 entered to thunderous cheers. They were the favorites, the champions. Their leader was a massive warrior named Graktok, from a species known for their combat prowess. He looked at Katie and sneered. "The little Deathworlder," he said. His voice was amplified across the arena. "I will enjoy breaking you." Katie just smiled. She had learned that her smile made other species uncomfortable. It showed her teeth, and apparently teeth were a threat display in human body language. "You're welcome to try," she said. The rules were simple. 2 squads would fight in a simulated battle scenario. They would use training weapons that delivered stun charges instead of lethal damage. The first squad to disable all members of the opposing squad would win. The environment would change randomly during the match to test adaptability. The match began. Squad 1 came at them hard and fast, using overwhelming force just like Pelra had predicted. They were good, Katie had to admit, very good. Their coordination was perfect, their tactics solid. Within the first 3 minutes, they had Raxtor pinned down and Liss injured. Katie saw Chinook get hit by multiple stun charges and go down. Now it was just her, Pelra, and a wounded Liss against 6 opponents. The spectators were already cheering for Squad 1's victory. This was going exactly as everyone expected, but Katie wasn't worried. This was when humans were most dangerous. When everything looked hopeless, Pelra, she said quietly into her comm, Pattern 7. That's insane, Pelra responded. The risk, do it, Katie said. Trust me. Pattern 7 was something they had developed in secret, a tactic so risky that the instructors would never approve it. It involved using one squad member as bait to draw the enemy into a trap. The bait would have to take enormous punishment. Katie had volunteered to be the bait. She broke from cover and ran straight at Squad 1. They saw her coming and shifted their formation to focus fire on her. Stun charges hit her from 3 directions. Her muscles locked up from the electrical shock, but she pushed through it. Humans had high pain tolerance. Evolution on Earth had demanded it. Katie reached the first opponent and tackled him hard. They both went down. He tried to throw her off, but she held on with grim determination. 2 more opponents came to help him. That was the mistake. They clustered together, focused on Katie, and didn't see Pelra coming from the side with a sonic disruptor. The blast took out all 3 opponents. Katie rolled away, her body screaming in pain. 4 down, 2 to go. But Squad 1's remaining fighters were their best. Graktok and his second-in-command, a reptilian warrior named Skith. The environment changed suddenly. The arena floor became ice, slippery and treacherous. Most species had trouble with ice. But Katie had grown up in a cold climate on Earth. She knew ice. She ran across the ice like it was solid ground, her balance perfect. Graktok tried to follow and slipped. Katie saw her chance. She slid across the ice on her knees, dropping low under Skith's guard, and hit him with a stun baton directly in the chest. He went down. Now it was just Katie and Graktok. The crowd had gone silent. This wasn't supposed to happen. The champion was supposed to win easily. Graktok roared and charged at her. He was bigger, stronger, and had more combat experience. By every logical measure, Katie should lose this fight. But Katie Morrison had never cared much about logic. She didn't try to match his strength. Instead, she used his momentum against him. As he reached for her, she dropped and rolled, using the ice to her advantage. Graktok's charge carried him past her and into a wall. Before he could recover, Katie was on his back, her arm locked around his neck in a chokehold. Graktok tried to throw her off. He was strong enough to lift her entire body weight, but Katie held on. She had trained for this. On Earth, humans had developed dozens of grappling techniques over thousands of years. Katie knew them all. Submit, she said quietly in his ear. You can't win this. Graktok struggled for another 10 seconds. Then his body went limp. The stun charge had finally affected him. Or maybe he had just realized she was right. Either way, the match was over. The arena exploded with noise. Some spectators were cheering. Others were shouting in disbelief. The judges confirmed it. Squad 7 had won. The champions had been defeated by a squad that included an undefined species, a human from a quarantined death world. Katie helped Graktok to his feet. Good match, she said. Graktok looked at her with something like respect. You fight like a devil, he said. What are you? Human, Katie said. And there are 11 billion more like me back home. That got a reaction. The arena went quiet again as people processed what she had said. 11 billion. 11 billion Deathworlders. The implications were staggering. Katie walked over to her squad. Raxtor had recovered enough to stand. He put one of his 4 hands on her shoulder. You were incredible, he said. We all were. We fought like a pack. Like a family, Katie corrected. She looked at each of them. Thank you for trusting me. The representatives from the 3 galactic powers were talking urgently among themselves. Katie could see the concern on their faces. They had expected to see a demonstration of standard military tactics. Instead, they had seen something new and frightening. A human fighting with a fury and persistence that seemed impossible. Commandant Zarquil descended to the arena floor. His colors were a brilliant gold, brighter than Katie had ever seen. He addressed the crowd and his voice carried to every corner of the arena. Today you witnessed something historic, he said. You met a human, a species from a world we had forgotten, from a sector we had quarantined. 3 million years ago, we decided they were too dangerous to contact. We thought they would destroy themselves before they ever reached the stars. He gestured to Katie. We were wrong. Humanity survived. They mastered their death world. They developed technology, culture, and civilization, and now they are here, ready to join the Galactic Coalition. Today, Katie Morrison has proven that humans can fight alongside us, can adapt to our ways, can earn their place among the stars. The crowd was silent, absorbing this information. Some looked afraid. Others looked curious. A few looked angry, like they thought humans should have stayed quarantined. The question now, Zarquil continued, is how we respond. Do we welcome humanity, or do we fear them? He turned to the representatives. This decision is above my authority, but I want you to know what I have. Katie woke up in the medical bay 3 days after the demonstration. Her body ached everywhere, a deep muscle pain that reminded her she was still human despite everything she had accomplished. The lights were dim, and for a moment she couldn't remember where she was. You're awake? Said a familiar voice. Katie turned her head to see Liz sitting beside her bed. The feline alien's fur was groomed perfectly, and her tail swished slowly. You've been unconscious for 70 hours. 3 days, Katie said. Her throat was dry. That's got to be a record. The doctor said your body finally gave out from accumulated stress, Liz explained. She poured water into a cup and helped Katie drink. You pushed yourself too hard for too long. Even Deathworlders have limits. Katie managed a weak smile. Don't tell anyone that. It'll ruin my reputation. The door opened and the rest of Squad 7 entered. Raxtor had to duck to fit through the doorway. Chinook scuttled in behind him, antennae waving happily. Pelra's water tank floated in last and Katie could see the relief in her eyes. The human lives, Raxtor said. His voice was warm. We were concerned. Takes more than a little combat exhaustion to kill me, Katie said. She tried to sit up and winced. Maybe she would stay lying down for now. What did I miss? Everything, Chinook said excitedly. The Coalition Council has been in emergency session. They're rewriting first contact protocols. They've sent delegations to Earth. The whole galaxy is talking about humans. Katie felt her stomach drop. Is that good or bad? Both, Pelra said carefully. Some species are excited to meet humans. They see you as potential allies, brave warriors, interesting people. Others are afraid. They remember the old quarantine orders and wonder if those orders were there for a good reason. Great, Katie muttered. No pressure. There's more, Liz said. She hesitated and Katie knew the news wasn't going to be good. Commandant Zarquil wants to see you. He's been waiting for you to wake up. He said it's important. An hour later, after the doctors had checked her over and cleared her for limited activity, Katie made her way to Zarquil's office. She moved slowly, her body still protesting every step. The station felt different somehow. More eyes watching her. More whispers following her through the corridors. She had become famous and she wasn't sure she liked it. Zarquil's office door opened before she could knock. Come in, Katie Morrison. His voice called from inside. The commandant stood by his usual spot at the viewport watching the stars. His bioluminescent body was cycling through colors rapidly, which Katie had learned meant he was thinking hard about something. Sir? Katie said. She tried to stand at attention, but her body wasn't quite ready for that yet. Zarquil noticed and gestured to a chair. Sit. You've earned the right to be comfortable in my presence. Katie sat gratefully. Chinook said the Coalition Council has been busy. That's an understatement, Zarquil said. He turned to face her and his colors settled into a deep blue. The galaxy is in an uproar. Half the species want to embrace humanity. The other half want to reinforce the quarantine. And all of them have questions that I cannot answer. What kind of questions? Important ones, Zarquil said. He moved closer and Katie could see the concern and the pattern shifting across his skin. How many humans are there? What are your intentions? Do you come in peace or conquest? Are you all like you or are you an exception? Can humanity be trusted? Katie thought carefully before answering. There are about 11 billion of us, like I said. Our intentions are to explore, to learn, to find our place among the stars. We come in peace, but we'll defend ourselves if threatened. I'm not exceptional by human standards. I'm a good soldier. But there are millions of humans who are smarter, stronger, or more talented than me. And as for trust, she paused, I can't answer that for all humanity. I can only speak for myself. I will honor my promises. I will be loyal to my friends. I will fight for what I believe is right. That's the best I can offer. Zarquil was quiet for a long moment. His colors shifted to something Katie thought might be approval. The Coalition Council has made a decision. Humanity will be granted provisional membership, as you heard, but there are conditions. Of course there are, Katie said. She had expected this. Nothing in life was free. You will continue your training here, Zarquil said. If you graduate, you will become humanity's first official representative to the Galactic Coalition. You will be an ambassador as much as a warrior. The galaxy will judge your entire species based on your actions. The weight of that responsibility settled on Katie's shoulders like a physical thing. 11 billion people depending on her to make a good impression. That's a lot of pressure, sir. Yes, Zarquil agreed. But I believe you can handle it. You've already done the hard part. You've proven that humans can compete with the galaxy's best warriors. Now you need to prove that humans can be good neighbors. What if I fail? Katie asked quietly. What if I mess up and make humanity look bad? Zarquil's colors shifted to a warm gold. Then you'll be exactly like every other species in the galaxy. We've all made mistakes, Katie Morrison. The Scrath Empire started 3 wars before they learned diplomacy. The Felinar Confederacy tried to conquer half the galaxy before they decided trade was more profitable. The Aquatic Collective spent 2 centuries arguing about territorial waters before they agreed on borders. Every species has a learning curve. That's reassuring, Katie said. I think. What I'm trying to say, Zarquil continued, is that perfection isn't required. Effort is, growth is. The willingness to learn from mistakes and do better. That's what the galaxy wants to see from humanity. Katie nodded slowly. I can do that. We can do that. Humans are good at learning. I know, Zarquil said. That's what makes you both dangerous and valuable. You adapt faster than any species I've ever seen. He moved back to the viewport. There's one more thing you should know. Earth didn't send just you. Katie sat up straighter, ignoring the protest from her muscles. What do you mean? A fleet of human ships arrived yesterday, Zarquil said. Small vessels, transport class, but they came through the quarantine zone without any authorization. When we hailed them, they said they were bringing more Academy candidates. 12 ships. 12 more humans, all of them military trained like you. Katie felt her heart race. They sent reinforcements. Or an invasion force, depending on who you ask, Zarquil said dryly. The Coalition Council is concerned. They thought humanity would send representatives slowly, carefully. Instead, you sent 12 soldiers all at once. That's very human, Katie admitted. When we do something, we don't do it halfway. So I'm learning, Zarquil said. He turned back to her. These new humans will be assigned to different squads. They'll be tested just like you were, and they'll be watched very carefully. The galaxy wants to know if you're an exception or the rule. They're not all like me, Katie said honestly. Some are better fighters. Some are smarter. Some are more diplomatic. But they'll all have one thing in common. They won't quit. That's the one thing every human shares. We're stubborn. Persistence predators, Zarquil said. It wasn't a question. Yeah, Katie agreed. That's us. We chase our prey until it drops from exhaustion. We don't have the biggest claws or the sharpest teeth. We just outlast everything else. Zarquil's colors shifted through several patterns before settling on something that looked like respect mixed with concern. The galaxy isn't ready for humanity, he said quietly. But then again, the galaxy is never ready for anything. Change happens whether we're ready or not. Katie stood up slowly. Sir, I have a question. Why are you helping us? You could have denied my application. You could have sent me home. Instead, you've supported humanity's entry into the coalition. Why? Zarquil was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than Katie had ever heard it. Because 3 million years ago, my ancestors were the ones who visited Earth. They saw your early ancestors and recommended quarantine. They were afraid of what you might become. And they were right to be afraid. You became exactly what they feared. Intelligent predators, unstoppable, unbreakable, dangerous. He turned to face her fully. But fear is not a good reason to keep a species isolated. Fear is a prison, and I've spent my entire career trying to make the galaxy less afraid, more open, more willing to accept differences. When I saw you at the registration desk, I saw a chance to right an ancient wrong, a chance to bring humanity into the galaxy despite my ancestors' fears. I had to take that chance. Katie felt tears prick at her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. Thank you, sir. You gave us an opportunity we wouldn't have had otherwise. Don't thank me yet, Zarquil said. You still have to graduate. You still have to prove yourself over and over again. The hard work is just beginning. I'm ready, Katie said, and she was. She had come too far to give up now. The next morning, Katie returned to training. Her body was still sore, but she pushed through it. Squad 7 welcomed her back with a training session that left them all exhausted and laughing. It felt good to be back with her team, her family. That afternoon, Katie met the new human arrivals. They gathered in one of the station's conference rooms. 12 humans who looked as nervous and excited as Katie had felt 3 months ago. She saw soldiers, pilots, engineers, and medics. Each one had been Car,